What if we could learn from outstanding leaders in business, sports, and education from some of the best voices in corporate America? Lighting the Path is a series of interviews with industry leaders whose stories highlight strategies that build purpose-driven cultures, engage and retain top talent, develop drivers that create high-performance teams, and connect people to the vision of your company. Join us to hear from game-changing, talented leaders whose paths make a difference at work and at home.
I've been polling people literally from Canada to South Africa, coast to coast, on the word that describes our current state of economy, society, or whatever. And the word keeps popping up. Word is uncertain. Uncertain. And in times of uncertainty, and especially if you go back to that massive event called COVID, it just turned our world upside down. Well, today's guest is someone whose world got turned upside down. But in spite of being turned upside down, she landed on her feet and started up a company called Monarch Talent Solutions. And she is creating havoc in the city of Houston in the search area as far as being able to find exceptional talent for the clients that she serves. So Sarah Englade is the CEO, founder of our organization, leads this amazing force, and is responsible for everything, as we all are as entrepreneurs. And I wanted to visit with her today, specifically, Sarah. I wanted to visit with you because of, in today's time, the role of the entrepreneur, the weight that we take on because of all the things that we have to do and be able to drive through this chaotic atmosphere that we deal with. I laughingly say, mere mortals can't do that. And so, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, well, you're very welcome then. So, you and I were talking about that. I'd like to say that you starting your company, well, it was a choice, but an event caused the choice because you started your career, if I'm not mistaken, off with one of the big houses, one of the big search firms, one of the big machines, right?
Yes, I did.
Then you moved over to a regional player, and then something happened, and you weren't working for the regional player anymore.
Yeah, that something was COVID. COVID happened. Yeah. And then there went my job. I think a lot of the times people forget, like, headhunters, our job is to fill jobs. And when there are no jobs, we don't have a job. And so I found myself in that situation, which now led me here.
Yeah, what's so cool though is that it's not like you didn't have a choice. You had a choice,
I did.
right? And what gave you the confidence to fight the fear, which I know you had, because if you didn't have fear trying to start your own business up, there's a screw loose someplace.
Yeah.
What was the prompter for you?
Well, when I started my career, I started with one of the largest firms. I learned the foundation, how to do the business, how I wouldn't do the business. Like, for the most part, it was actually a really good experience being there. And I left that firm and went to a firm that wasn't as organized. They didn't have processes in place. They didn't believe in metrics, KPIs, and you were kind of like thrown in. And it was my first time that I felt like this is what entrepreneurship feels like. There was so much to do. It was very disorganized. It was almost like you were thrown in and you were going to sink or swim. And I was a swimmer. I was going to swim. So I had to figure out everything. So when I got laid off, I had an interview the same day. I won't lie. I was laid off, and within my DMs was another very big multi-billion-dollar firm saying, hey, we'd like to interview you. But I just had this feeling. It's like, okay, I've been down that road before. Worked for a big company. Then I worked for a smaller company that kind of taught me the entrepreneur bug that I had inside of me, that fire I had inside of me that I didn't know. And so that's what really triggered it. I just was like, I can do this. If I could do it for them, I can do this on my own. So I Googled, how do you start a company? And I started a company.
Yeah. And so when I wasn't a clear path.
No.
Now, hang on a second. Let me stop us for just a second because I had a note that popped up while you were talking, and because you froze for just a second,
Oh, I'm
and it had to
sorry.
do with no, it's not on your end. It had to do with internet connection. Sometimes it becomes unstable,
Mm-hmm.
and so I'm trying to think of a place where I can go and just kind of cut. 'Cause you were saying something real important. All right, let's back our thought back up on this. The beauty of what we're doing, right? We can do this. Is that you were talking about? Where's a good cut point for you? Uh, let's go
Well, I
back
could
to,
start over too.
nah, nah, no, we're doing great. We don't have to go all the way back there. The here's the cut point, right? Is that you're working for a mid-sized company and you got laid off, and then you got a call from a big billion-dollar company, right? Start with that thought and then keep going from there.
So I was working for a mid-sized company, was laid off due to the pandemic. The same day I was laid off, I had an interview with another multi-billion dollar firm. And they were really excited to talk with me. I was excited too because I was laid off. So I'm like, I need a new job. But there was just something inside of me. I'm like, I have done this now twice. I worked for a big company that taught me the foundation of recruiting. I worked for a mid-sized company that taught me I was entrepreneurial. And so really that's what I wanted. So I Googled how do you start a company? And that's literally what I did. And I was scared. I'm scared still. I'm scared every single day. I think it's a healthy fear, but every single day I'm a little freaked out. Yeah. 5 years
Yeah.
later.
Yeah, no, I love this. Now, you also talked about, and what I love about entrepreneurs is that you have so many things you got to do. I mean, there's so many aspects of the job. How important are KPIs to you? I'm just kind of curious your thought process.
KPIs are really important to me. I mean, I was raised on KPIs.
Yeah,
So
the reason I ask that is because there's some people leave the big, national brands who are real KPI centric because they don't like that kind of what they call
they don't like it.
regimentation,
I know.
right? But you do. So let's talk to our audience about why you think that's important.
Well, the first firm that I was at taught me how important they were, and I didn't like them either. I'll be honest with you. Being and doing them and being held accountable to them, you don't really see the value in it, even though you see the success and you're making the placements and you're growing the business, you're doing the whole thing. You kind of don't like the KPIs. It's too much. But then I went to a firm that didn't believe in them. And the chaos and the difference in caliber of what people were bringing to the table, their energy, like how they showed up was different. They weren't held to the same standard. So they didn't push themselves to be the best. So when I started my company, I knew I had to go to KPIs because there is success behind KPIs. Like you hit numbers, you do your activity, you're literally hard work pays off. And so you have to compound activity and you have to build relationships. If you don't believe in that, then you're going to be hustling at this the rest of your life. You won't be able to build a book of business. You won't be able to build a reputation. You won't be able to build your skills. So for me, I mean, I started my company with no book of business. I had to put KPIs together and it took me 6 months to figure it out. And ever since then, it's been a success, but it has everything to do with the consistency of hitting numbers.
Yeah, the reason why I wanted to make sure we chronicle that, Sarah, is because as you and I were talking about, I'm in the process of doing research for my next book, which is called Move the Ball. And I believe that as leaders, when we're trying to be able to manage the teams that are following us, that we have to be able to help them focus on the steps that they need to be taking, and that's what KPIs are. All they are is that's how we chronicle steps in the process. And if we measure the steps, or what I say, measure the output, then the outcome comes. And I love what you're saying about the fact that without KPIs, you have chaos.
Like I
Okay.
saw it, I worked in it. It was very uncomfortable in all the wrong ways. It wasn't uncomfortable, which made me grow. Like I was watching people stay stagnant without direction, without goals, without numbers to hit, and being held accountable to those. So I think I live for KPIs and
Yeah.
processes. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that too, because that's the other part of when you say processes, is as leaders, we're supposed to manage the process, not the people, aren't we?
Yep.
Yeah. And so when you looked at this, what were the most important processes as a entrepreneur, as a business owner, that you had to go in and get your arms around as quickly as possible?
Well, from owning a recruiting firm, I mean, just the processes around people. Like, how do we actually balance the difference in how we treat our candidates and our clients? Like, what are the steps that we have to actually follow through? Because it's all about the relationship. It's relationship first. So, what's the biggest complaint people have about recruiting firms? That we ghost. They don't hear back
Hmm.
from us. We're not helpful. All the things that they don't like. So, how do you not be that? Well, you set up processes so that you know when you meet a new candidate, how many times do you need to touch them to make sure that they continue to be warm, that you're bringing value. So every time you reach out to them, are you adding value? Or are you just kind of sitting in their text being like, hey, what's up? You have to bring something to the table. So
Hmm.
we have processes around new candidates that we've placed, how many times we reach out to them from day one, then to how often we're reaching out to them I mean, throughout, because it's about the relationship. It's about the journey of that relationship. It's not about the transaction. And it's the same thing on the client side. You have to have processes. You have to have a plan on how you're going to attack building a book of business.
Hmm.
So touch points without being too aggressive or cringy and annoying, what feels comfortable for you, but it's about doing it
Yeah,
and showing up.
I love what you're saying. What I'm hearing you say is that you literally have a process around follow through.
Everything.
Okay, follow through.
Yes.
It's easy to follow up, right? Whenever you are putting somebody through I call it the manufacturing line, the assembly line, and you've met them and you're taking them all the way through getting them an offer. It's easy to have a
Easy.
process for that. The challenge you have is what about those bazillion people that you're talking to or coming into contact with that may not be going through that assembly line today, but they may later on, or you may never, but you want to have a relationship with them because you can bring value to them and they may be able to bring value to you at some point in time. And what's your
That's
follow
right.
through process? I love that challenge that you're throwing out to people to have somebody go and chronicle a specific follow through process so that the people feel like there's a sense of value as opposed to, oh, I don't have a job for you. I don't need you today.
Yeah, that's what they don't like about us is
That's right.
that, you don't follow through if you don't need them. But, for us, we have different processes and timelines in place on the candidate and client side. So like the candidate side, we're touching them. In the very beginning, when we first built the relationship, it's every 4 weeks. It's every 4 weeks, and we're
Hmm.
giving them like a slick with information, some type of tips for optimizing LinkedIn or optimizing interviewing, overcoming objections. So every time we reach out, it's with new information. It's a value add. That way, they don't feel like, why is this person reaching out? I'm big on text, so my phone is full. So whether I'm emailing them or DMing them, I'm also texting them. So you have to hit people from different angles so that you
Hmm.
keep them interested and a little bit like off guard a little bit. So once you hit the text, it's no longer for me cold, it's warm. So we're big on that. And the same thing with the client side. I mean, these are long-term relationships. I'm not trying to work with the company one time. I'm trying to work with the company for as long as they need me. So,
Hmm.
for us, it's the same thing. It kind of starts off with a touch point, maybe like 3 times in a month at first, because you need them to see that you're viewing their profile. You've left them a voice message. You've tried to contact them on LinkedIn. And then after that, it's more casual. You're still trying to give them value add. You're giving them intel on the Houston market. You're letting them know that you're tapped in. This is what I'm seeing. This is the intel that I'm getting. What are you getting? And trying to get the conversation going so that they know that you're an expert in your space.
You betcha.
That's the biggest thing. And you have to niche. I think that's another thing about being in recruiting and being in business. You have to niche, you have to go deep and narrow. You can't be the subject matter expert on everything. So pick a niche, pick an industry, and just go deep, narrow, and become the expert in it.
Yeah. Yeah, I love what you're talking about, especially this whole subject about market intel. In today's time, information is at our fingertips. The
Yeah.
challenge we have is that there's so much information that people can't get their hands around it. And they also, it's like I got to fess up on myself. I just shared something on Facebook that really touched and moved me. And so I shared it out on Facebook. I said, man, what an amazing story. And then I get a text from a pastor who, unfortunately, from the past, we know each other well. He goes, great story, great point. It's a hoax. And I went back and read it again. And so then I started digging into who posted because it was shared by a friend of mine. So I thought that was good enough validation.
Credibility.
And
Yep.
then I dug into it and found out it was somebody who just writes stuff to give. And it was a good point. It was a good story. It was a good heart moving rendition. But I started thinking about the fact that there's so much stuff that's out there. Everybody's going, is this real or not? Is this
I
right or
know.
not? And what I love about what you're doing from a brand standpoint and how you got on my radar, Sarah, is that you're not doing infomercials, that you're putting information out to be helpful to your community, which is what I call your network. I like the word community. I'm changing that language for me. It's to your community. You're putting information out for them, and that has a huge impact on your brand, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, I think when you're building a brand, you have to be very purposeful with how you approach. And people, when you're making content, you need to teach them and you need to try to help them with tips and tricks. You can't just keep asking for things. whatever it is, just give me business. I can fill this or do that. You really have to be mindful, especially now because the market is so uncertain that people don't want to be sold and they don't want to be misled. So what can you do? You can lead them in the direction that has been helpful for your other candidates and for your other clients by sharing, stories that are relatable, that are true. All the posts that I make and the content that I share is from conversations I'm having with my candidates and my clients. So, it's just my perspective of those conversations. I'm sharing it to hopefully help and inspire someone who needs the inspiration because, the market's upside down. It's hard for a lot of people right now.
Yeah, but you're not doing infomercials. You're not doing ads
No,
on
I don't do any of that.
Talent Solutions. And what I find is a lot of people, because they don't know to write anything different. So they say, here's who we are, here's how old we are, here's what we do, here's what makes us great. We won this award. And unfortunately, the people that if you and I were competing against each other, I'd have a little bit of an advantage for you because before we sold our company, we'd been in business 30 years. I had 30 years of awards. I had 30 years of this. And I used to go around telling people I've been in business 30 years until somebody said, something, Supernet's company has been in business longer than you. That's not a difference maker, right?
Right.
It has to do with what's your credibility. And your credibility, we have to exhibit our credibility, don't we?
Yeah, we 100% do. I think that's one of the biggest things in business. Like what you preach, you've got to deliver on. Like who you are. And I always tell this to people too. Like when you are building a brand or you're growing your company, who you are on the internet is who you need to be in person. So stand by your word, stand by the brand, and show up for that. And when it comes to a business like recruiting, it's very personal because it's so relationship driven. So you just have to be that sort of a person to be relatable, understanding, empathetic, and get the job done.
You betcha. So as an entrepreneur, you started up your business. This was, would you say
2020.
2020. Oh, the year 2020, the year the world came to a stop.
Yep.
We thought it was coming to an end, but thankfully it did not. But so you, about 5 years running now, what's been the biggest, and maybe it's not the biggest one, maybe it's an easier question to answer. What's the first hurdle you had to get over? But what comes to mind?
I think the first hurdle I needed to get over was from building a business was the fact that there was no business going on. I had to overcome myself in that because it was about continuing to show up even though I didn't feel like anything was happening. So building a business when every company was laying off, candidates were furloughed, I had no clients starting this company and having to just consistently show up, do the work, hit metrics, do the KPIs, believe in the work. I think that was the first thing because it's easy to get distracted and discouraged when you're starting a business and you don't see anything happening from it. You want instant success and you want it to be overnight and you're just going to be, swimming in money and life is going to be good. And that's not how it is. So that was definitely the first hurdle was understanding the market, leaning into the market and showing up for myself every day.
Yeah, I love that. It's like, it's really funny. And it's this, I wasn't a setup, Sarah. I'm kind of in awe of your answer and I'll tell you why, because what you described was not circumstance, where you lost a big client or struggled to make payroll or that. You didn't describe circumstance as the big hurdle. You described mindset as the big hurdle. And that is the danger ground when we're trying to manage a project and we're trying to chart or navigate uncharted waters. The mindset is a key component of success, isn't it?
Big time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's your mindset now? Because now you got 5 years of history underneath your belt in running your own business or whatever. Is there anything that's different today or something that's even more ground in?
I just have such a strong belief. Like I'm not going back to the corporate world. This is life for me. I'm 100% invested in this. So this has to work. So my mindset every single day is that I'm winning. Like even last night, before I went to bed, I looked at my husband. I'm like, tomorrow I'm getting a job order. And he's like, I'm always putting things out in the universe because you have to. So I just have a firm belief. I feel like a lot of people that I chat with, they tell me that about myself too. They're like, the difference between you and me, they always do that comparison, is that you believe and I'm struggling. But I think I'm lucky like that too. Like I never have had the thought that I'm going to quit this. Am I good at this? Is this for me? Those thoughts don't run through my head
Where does that
at
come
all.
from? Where does that come from? I mean, were you raised that way, or
No, I
did?
was very insecure. I always wanted people to like me. I was a people pleaser. I definitely didn't have confidence growing up the way that I do now. I think it took a lot for me to like get here, which a lot of kind of weird things like, being fired from a job, having to figure out who I was from that, kind of understanding that needed to happen, leaning into that and being okay with it. I think learning who I was, moving into my next job. And then just realizing that no one's coming to save me. No one's coming. Like nothing is easy. And even though like the internet makes things look perfect, that everyone has their own struggles and I've got mine too, but I don't let anything stop me. So everything is figure outable. I show up every single day. I always put effort in. I show up at the best I can. If maybe it's not 100%, maybe that day I can only give 60, but I'm showing up. So I don't know. I don't know if it just came from life experience, from failing and, succeeding right after.
Yeah,
But
here's what you're making me think about. I know you don't know this, but the words you just used are on my wall behind me over here. The first one, the reason why you are what I hear, is my word for last year was that you can't see it, my camera a little high. It's transform. Okay, that was my word for 2025. I went through. It's not that I went through a transformation. I accepted the fact that I'm not the same person today that I was when I started my business up,
that's right.
after we sold our company, and for my wife to say, Mike, it's time for you to go do what God created you to do. And I picked transform, and I picked a butterfly for a specific example. It's the most amazing metamorphosis. And as you were talking about this, I said, this Sarah's not the same person she was in 2020.
No, I'm
She's
not.
not. She's been transformed, And what's
Yeah.
so cool is that my word for 2020, before that, 2024 was bold, because I needed to be like you. I need to be bold. And what I said, I have great thought. I need to be bold in what I said.
Yeah.
And I love this, is we're going to use this show to announce my word for 2026, because the word I decided on 2 weeks ago was abundant. It's either abundant or abundance. I haven't decided which yet.
Uh-huh.
All
I like
right.
that.
Because at night, my word before I go to bed is that I think about the abundance in my life. And when I wake up in the morning, the first thing I think about is that the abundance, no matter what my situation, what my circumstances are. My wife and I are dealing with some issues right now from a health wise. My wife's just struggling with some things, and we've got this protocol that we've got her on this. I've got to drive her to the doctor almost every day for her to get an IV, 7 days a week, and it's been months on end. And so it's really easy to get sucked into that. It's like, oh my God. And she and I just talked about, abundance, right? Just abundance. And I love this thing about you say that, and I go, it's like, I'm going to be bold on, there's abundance in front of me. And what is so cool is when you have that mindset and you think along those lines, that's whenever you take steps. That's how you move the ball to get from here to there, whatever. So uh, this is a conversation that we need to schedule for 3 hours
Probably.
because of both like-mindedness, and you're very interesting. And I just
Thank you.
one thing that I need to ask you, because this is a common question I get asked, and we'll kind of wrap up with this thought, is that you run a business that unfortunately you can't just shut everything down and just go recruit people. That's only one small aspect of what your business is about. So when you're looking at running your company with the people that you have working with you, the people you've got working with this network, you have the outsourced resources that you are always streaming, how do you prioritize your schedule? Do you have tools or techniques you use to be able to to accomplish what you want to, as opposed to just getting caught up in the swirl?
Yeah, so you have to actually time block. At least that's what works for me. So I set schedules basically for um, the kind of calls that I'm going to be making. So like Mondays and Tuesdays, I dedicate to candidates, and the rest of the week I dedicate to the plan around BD. So we're heavy on BD right now. So even if it's like 1.5 days of candidates, we do the rest of the week on business development. That is what we do. So in order to get everything done, I'm a huge time blocker. Whenever we do client visits or, I am um, training, teaching, or speaking, or things like that. We just work around it, but we have to plan out weeks in advance. We're inundated right now, even though we're not as busy on the On the client side, we are incredibly busy on the candidate side. So if you are not time blocking and setting boundaries, you will get nothing done in this business because you get pulled in every direction.
You betcha. Yeah, I love that thought process. It's a great way to put a cap on this because what we're talking about is one of my favorite, phrases I got out of Dennis Waitley, was the very first speaker that I ever heard, national speaker, came to Houston. And he talked about the difference between tension relieving and goal achieving. If you don't time block, you get sucked into the vortex of tension relieving activity.
Yeah, you do.
When you time block, it happens, what takes place is you take control of your focus. And in today's time of uncertainty, we have to take control on where's our attention going and what are we touching? What are we touching on? What steps do we take? And so,
And you always have to start your day with the thing you don't want to do the most. Like that is what I've learned a few
brilliant.
years ago. Just get that thing done that you're like cringing inside that you don't want to do. That thing is important. It's probably going to move the needle. Start with that. The rest of your day goes very, very smooth after that. A lot of
Yeah,
people mess that one up. Just start there.
what a great piece of advice. So, Sarah, thank you so much. If somebody wants to reach out to you, we have the information in the show notes. But why don't you tell people the best way to contact with you if
Yeah.
they want to discuss a follow-up to anything we've covered?
You can find me on LinkedIn, Sarah Englade. You can send me a DM. You can email me also, sarah@monarchtalentsolutions.com.
Super. Well, great. Well, this has been exciting, and I've already got about 4 or 5 other topics I want to get back with you on so we can continue this conversation.
Yeah, let's do it.
Super. Great. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us today on Lighting the Path, Strategies for Tomorrow's Leaders. If anything in this podcast speaks to you, if I've challenged you, or if you want to spend time digging into this subject a little deeper, or if you disagree with me, reach out. My contact information is on our website, lightingthepath.net, or email me at mike@mikelejeune.com. Also, look for me on LinkedIn. I'd love to connect our networks. Keep lighting the path for those who choose to follow you. It's more than a responsibility. It's an honor.